to do was keep us quiet. He wanted us to just shut up. And it was a valuable lesson I learned. And so to this day, I make my kids sing in the car for exactly the same reason. The difference was that Ern made us sing in 3-part harmony. And we couldn't get out of the car when we got home until we did it and did it right. He's a perfectionist, and so we had to do it over and over and over again. And the thing is, we must not have ever gotten it right because, this is a very big memory for me, and it went on for years, but as far as I can remember, we only sang one song. We never got beyond the second song, so we must not have ever gotten it right. Come, we need you. She's the third part. I was the youngest, so I didn't get my own part. So I'm extra. There's music in the air when the infant morn is nigh, and faint its luscious sing on the bright and laughing sky. Many a heart's ecstatic sound with its thrill of joy profound, while we listen enchanted there to the music in the air. So, very good.
You're improving.
When can we learn a second song? Anyway, I don't think he really knew a second song or something. There's got to be a reason. But anyway, there's advantages to having 4 girls. To this day, our parents don't have a dishwasher. When I used to ask my mother about this, why do we need a dishwasher? I raised 4 of them. So this is a job that we have tried to pass on to the sons-in-law, at least because we've had many years of experience with it. And now one of the other things when we were growing up that I remember is that my mother was very social when she was young. I've heard lots of stories about my mother when she was young. And she used to really like to party and have a good time. And she was really looking forward to the days when we would start dating and going out. And, were we a disappointment in that category? Only Beth really kind of came through for her and used to have boyfriends and go out a lot. And my mother was kind of disappointed, we could tell. So we decided, all right, you want us to have boyfriends, you want us to get married, you want grandchildren. Did we ever show her? One summer, we all came home and said, we're all getting married. All 3 of us. She gets
7 weeks apart.
7 weeks apart. And that was one of the biggest events for her. She pulled off 3 weddings within a 3.5-month time period.
Wow. Made all the cakes.
But as grandparents, my parents have a lot more time now to devote to their grandchildren and than they did when they were working parents. And they play a very important part in the lives of all of our children, for which we're very, very grateful. Other than working, though, my parents were always very active. They were high energy people. For many years, of course, their energy was devoted to just, to talk. Whether it's one-on-one and he corners you somewhere and you can't quite get away, or whether it's having his letters to the editor published in the Hartford Current, whether it's writing a book about ants, or whether it's playing Professor von Schmalzenwalzen in the variety shows at the high school or at church. He certainly has always had a way with words and loves to be the center of things. But when we were younger, we never thought of my father really as having any hobbies. And about 10 years before he retired, I guess he thought maybe he should get some hobbies too. And he took up fishing, and he has spent many a day with many of you here, either at the lake, in the Sound, down on the causeway, fishing away. And he also took up photography. And that's when he started out with the Charter Oak Camera Club. And even though he drove us all nuts with this, stand straight, move here, move there, stand straight, it took 20 minutes to take one picture. He really was, the results were very good. We, of course, were all, a wreck, but his pictures came out great. And he, for, I think, almost 20 years, was the editor of their newsletter, which won many awards over the years. And just last year, he retired from that job, and he passed it along to some people who were sitting at the back of the room, for which we are all extremely grateful. My mother spent most of her time over the years, she's always done handicraft type work. She was very active in East Farms Auxiliary. She was the president, I believe, for many years. She was active in bringing in some programs that they had, like the ceramic classes that they used to have, and starting the East Farms Fair that they had. She's always been into the handcrafts thing. I think many of you in the room either have, or your children or grandchildren have, one of her Goofy dolls that she's made. And she's lately been into quilt making and has produced some wonderful pieces there. And I know that even though they, like I say, they were never avid churchgoers, obviously they made some very strong friends in the Mr. and Mrs. Club. And they put on many programs there. They ran many of their social events. And 25 years ago, I didn't realize that the timing of this, and I'm glad that Mr. Klogman told me that it's their 100th anniversary coming up. When they had their 75th anniversary, my father was asked to be the master of ceremonies for the thing that they were putting together. And they panicked when the committee went through the records of the church and discovered that there was no record of my parents' wedding. And they were, it's like, why are we all here? And so they scurried around, and I guess they got Pastor Klogman at the time to set the record straight. The records had been were kept in a loose leaf binder, and the entire year of 1942 had been wiped out.
Oh, boy.
And so he had to kind of recreate all of that information. Just a few words about some of the vacations that we took. When we were little, we didn't have a lot of money. We didn't have any time because he was always working. So we never really took many vacations. And we were kind of lucky. We had Cedar Lake. And we all look forward to our 3 weeks here. Every year, we'd get to come down and be summer people and stay at the cottage. As we got older, some of us got a little more creative on how to spend more time here. And some of us got really, really good at it. Right, Rick? And we had some great times staying down here, trading off cousins who got to stay with which aunt and uncle, and had a great time. And what was neat about Cedar Lake was that, down here you get to know people because you spend time together. You get to sit on the beach, you get to talk together. You really get to know people. In Farmington, we really got to know only the Reynolds because you just didn't have time in your day-to-day lives. So this really became kind of a special place for us. And now that they've retired and they've spiffed up the cottage a little bit and put in the improvements, they can really stay down here pretty much from the time snow goes till the snow comes. And now they've developed my fine art of perfecting that, and they spend as much time down here as they can. But when we were little, we only took, from what I can remember, one real family vacation, and we went to Washington, D.C., Cleveland, Ohio, to meet all those cousins. And we have cards from all those cousins out in the other room. They all wish they could have been here. And we went to Niagara Falls. And on their 25th anniversary, they got to celebrate by going on a cruise to Nassau. I believe that was with the other anniversary couples, my aunt and uncle, and the Muirs. Did you all go together? Yeah. That was who it was. And in 1981, we took somewhat of a family vacation, finally, even though we were now all older and married, when we went on our first trip to Iowa for Pam and Lynn's wedding. And so we all ventured out there together. One big airplane full of all of us from the east. We arrived in town and stopped at the store, and they said, "Oh, the Kosswigs from Connecticut are here." You think Chester is small, you go to Iowa. But then, other than that wonderful, memorable trip that we all took to Florida when I didn't want to go at Christmas time when my sisters were away, they really didn't get to travel again much until they retired. But then, at that point, they got to take two very memorable trips that they had always wanted to do. And one was a trip to Germany. They had always wanted to go over and find their roots, and they did. and they went into East Germany and found some relatives that we have over there, and that was a very exciting trip for them. And the second one was that they took a trip driving across country the year after they retired. They went everywhere, and they imposed on, they stopped and visited everywhere. And they renewed all kinds of old acquaintances, and they got to stay with all kinds of friends and family. And one of the things, it was funny, my mother told me about that trip that happened that sticks out in her mind is the fact that they were driving along this highway in Nevada, and of course, I'm sure my mother was driving. You have to understand, my mother always drives, because my father isn't fast enough, and that, trust me, that's true. So my mother must have been driving, and all of a sudden this helicopter was hovering over their car, and she thought, oh no, I'm going to get a ticket. And I know just up ahead, they're going to be up there taking this ticket down. And amazingly enough, the helicopter went away. But I do want you all to know that that woman who you might call the Leadfoot, that woman wrote the book on Leadfoot. And that woman knows how to drive, and she never got caught until 2 years ago. And they finally caught her. And she actually went to the judge, and she said, oh, and he said, oh, this is your first offense? And he looked, oh, this sweet little old lady. And he let her go. Can you believe this? Anybody in this room could tell him. And it's a trait I've inherited well from them. But anyway, their last big trip was a trip to Disney World with my family and myself. That was a memorable experience for all of us. And the only place I know that they haven't been that they really have talked about still wanting to go is Hawaii. And I don't know, guys, this might be the year. Think about it. But all in all, it's been a good 50 years. They've both worked very hard. They've done a lot. They've had a good time. They've had some good times. They've had some bad times on the way. We all thank you for what you've taught us along the way, and what you could still teach us if we could learn the second solo. And for the help and support that you've given us. And we hope that you've gotten what you wanted to get out of the last 50 years. And if not, there's lots of time left.
Exceeded our expectations, I must say, and we appreciate the way you helped us out and the way things have turned out for us. It's been a very happy 50 years, and we hope to be around to see what you're going to say about us on this.
I wanted to convey something to Ma and Father here in another language that our family is learning now too. Nancy mentioned German, Latvian, although among us all of the 4 sisters and parents, we have studied many, many languages. Our most recent one is American Sign Language because of my little 4-year-old being deaf. And I wanted to just give a greeting in sign language to the happy anniversary couple. You probably all know this one from Sesame Street, right? Yeah. Happy 50 years and many more. Happy 50 years and many more. We wanted to have one of the sons-in-law, as Nancy said, they were looking for a son. They do have 3 sons-in-law now. And Lynn is going to say a few words now about all that research he did. Lynn has his doctorate degree from Illinois. He's a real researcher type. So he came in, he saw that no one had done this research for this party. He spent the last few days at the libraries around the area, and I'll let him say a few words about 1942.
The real reason is because I've been behind the camera all day, and I want to get on the camera too. So if I volunteer for this, I get to be on camera. the first thing that I found out when I started doing this little